Welcome to the Extra Mile. I am G5, and this is Justin.
What's up?
And then there's Caleb in Caleb's corridor.
Hey,
Hey.
how's it going?
This is the Extra Mile. It's just an easy conversational podcast meant to be easy listen for Christians, and engaging for those on the edge of faith, thinking about following Jesus. So if you're here, that's what we're all about. We're going to be talking about Matthew 14 and some thoughts about the key of life, something that's super important in life, and what Justin is going to talk about. What are you talking about, bro?
Oh, man. Aren't we all looking for the key to life?
Yes, I think so. At least I think a lot of people are looking for like a magic bullet in life. Don't you, Caleb? You look for that magic bullet?
A magic bullet?
Yeah.
One answer for everything?
Yeah, one answer for everything. Like kind of like
Yeah.
the food health realm, like seed oil. If you just get rid of seed oil, it's just like now I'm magically healthy.
Aren't you doing something with that right now?
No. I'm just using it as an example. It seems to be like the thing, but anyway, it's not. Go ahead.
My mom has gifted me. They go to Branson a lot, and you have all kinds of fare that you get to acquire if you're there. And there's this particular type of chipotle seasoning that you mix with oil, and then you pour a bunch of saltine crackers in a bag, and you mix it up, and it makes the most delightful snack.
So my wife...
You drink it?
No. It's like a cracker. So you put oil, and then you put this chipotle seasoning in, and then the oil will soak into the crackers.
Doesn't it soggy and?
No, it makes it crisp.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like you've probably had them before, and they sell them at the store in the little containers.
Oh.
But they're my favorite thing ever.
Yeah, my wife makes... They're called spicy... She just calls them spicy crackers.
Oh.
I don't know what all she puts in it, but there's oil involved and then some type of spice, and she just puts them all in a bag and shakes it up
That.
and then bakes it. And
Bakes it.
yeah, she puts it in the oven and bakes it for like 15 minutes at 350 or something, and her coworkers lose their minds.
Yeah.
Like they love
They
that
are
stuff.
delicious.
Wow.
Anyway, so, and I don't know, I'd like to try that because this method, you just let them soak in, and then they don't get soggy. They become crispy, and they're flavored, and they're really spicy, and it's one of those type of heats that you just can't stop eating it. Anyway, one of the reasons
Nice.
why I'm fat. But I would say that I was preparing for a procedure I had last week, and so I was going to make my favorite crackers. And I had the canola oil, and then I had the package, and then I didn't have enough crackers to do a full batch, so I went to the store. And then I came back, and you know what? I'm going to make my crackers now. Couldn't find the canola oil.
Oh, man. I'm sorry.
Like, where's the canola oil? Like, it was on the counter.
It's gone.
And so I called the wife, and she goes, "Oh, well, I thought that nasty, ugly oil," and like I threw it out because remember we're off that. And so I was like, no. So I didn't even get my crackers.
Sad day.
It was so sad.
Oh, man.
But you're trying. I think that the idea is that we're all trying to do healthier things.
Yeah.
We don't want to put bad things in our body. We're all pretty health conscious, you know.
Yeah.
All those refined oils.
We definitely haven't eaten ice cream every night for the past 3 weeks.
It's really hard not to do.
Like, I don't know
Super
what
hard.
it is. I've heard so much about dopamine. Oh, it's dopamine. Oh, how much dopamine do you need? I've never heard of that until recently.
No, I blame
Really?
my wife because she's been pregnant and she loves ice cream. So I'm like, hey, do you need some ice cream tonight? And she's like,
Interesting.
yes.
Do you need
I
some
love
pickle
that.
ice cream?
Yes.
Some what?
What's your favorite?
Did you say
ice cream?
pickle ice cream?
I just threw it out there. We can edit that out. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Go-to is always Reese's peanut butter cup. I love Reese's.
Do you
But
know
It's disgusting.
why? Why would you say that?
Because I don't like peanut butter and chocolate together like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I love it so much that we were watching E.T. when I was 5,
Yeah.
and I had Reese's Pieces.
Reese's Pieces.
Because of E.T. And they became really popular. Like M&M's really messed up there. You know that story. Did you know that?
I did not catch that, but I see it now connecting.
So Spielberg was looking for product placement. And so
Sure.
he obviously approached Mars Candy and said, "Hey, would you like M&M's to be the candy that, you know, my extraterrestrial wants to eat?" And they were like, "No, go pound sand." And so he goes, "Okay." And he goes over here to Reese's, and Reese's Pieces outsold M&M's that year because of
The coloring
movie.
scheme is a little better for that too, which
Yeah.
helps. Yeah.
Well, so my story is that I think it was Captain Crunch, or it was like Trix, or it was some cereal that I was just eating and watching ET, and it was peanut butter flavored, and then I got sick.
Oh.
And so now I just, when it's like Reese's Pieces or Reese's peanut butter cup flavored anything, I'm like, oh.
See, the key to life is keeping those two things separate. Like
Chocolate and peanut
chocolate
butter?
and peanut butter. I love them individually, but not together.
Have you never done like a Nutella and peanut butter sandwich?
Not peanut butter, but Nutella. Yeah.
Have you ever done that? Nutella and peanut butter?
I'm not really a big fan of Nutella.
Whoa, controversy. Nutella is amazing.
You know what? We're gonna shun him.
Yeah.
You'll be just, instead of having my video today, just black. Every time it cuts to Caleb, it's just black again. Just a black screen.
Well, and I have to apologize that I haven't built your backdrop yet. So
I
you're
know.
still in the corridor.
We keep talking about it, but
He'll
you
get a
can
corner
see.
someday.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have I think the healthy approach, like we all want to do things that are healthier for our life, and so that's not only physical. I think it's also spiritual, and we also want to look for the healthier, happier things in our spiritual life,
Mm-hmm.
and especially whenever life is hard, we definitely want to have good advice. And our appeal to you, the listener, is to say we look to the Bible for wisdom. It's not wrong to look at other sources because, I mean, we believe that all things that are good come from God.
Right.
But and so there's God and goodness in many things or in life. But we would look to wisdom to try to do a more healthy spiritual life. So that means choosing things that are better for us. There's some instruction that we can delve into, but the warnings of the Bible are that if you choose the unhealthy things, if you choose the spiritually poor things, it can even be derived down to good and evil. If you choose the evil ways, that there are consequences at the end of our life when we die. And it's one of our things where it's the same thing like if you just eat canola oil crackers all day, even though they're delicious, or if you eat Nutella and peanut butter sandwiches or peanut butter ice cream, eventually it's going to catch up to you, right?
Right.
You're going to look back at your life in your mid-40s after eating a decade of peanut butter ice cream, and you'd be like, wish I hadn't ate all them.
Or 2 weeks after nonstop eating ice cream every night, I'm like, oh, hello, Billy.
Well, and I'll
How
say,
you
like, it was Ethan who came on the podcast and chatted with us. He's done such a great job
Yeah.
of like a life change. It's really inspiring. But I think my problem was just convenience. Like I'd go to get a hamburger for lunch just because it's the most affordable and quickest option when you're working a trade, But then you turn around and you say, my blood pressure is causing me to pass out in the evening or whatever, and it just sort of catches up with you, and so it's one of those things to always be health conscious is important.
Well, it's in Proverbs that they say, and this is why wisdom I think is so important because it helps deal with a lot of the gray areas in life. I feel like one of the worst jobs would be a judge or something like that.
Being a judge.
Being a judge. I will scroll and on my feed I get like these judges that deal with cases and they come in and they like basically just like lay it down on these people who have a bunch of cases on them, and it's kind of fun to watch. But at the same time, I watch that and they're like, get your life straight, get your life together. Why do I keep seeing you? But at the same time, I feel like that has to be a really hard job to have because you need a certain level. You're dealing with such gray area. Do I give them mercy? Do I not give them mercy? Do I deal with them harshly here? Do I not deal with them harshly here? You need wisdom. You need discernment to kind of deal with those types of issues. And I think like with health, especially when we live in an environment, it's so easy to get anything you want as fast as you want, super good tasting food. And then most likely I have a genetic predisposal to wanting to get that food, and I have the time and the money and the income to get that food quickly. I have a high genetic food drive. I'm gonna go get that, and it's just gonna be easy and convenient for me, and that way I'm gonna just then look down, and be like, oh wow, that's how that happened, and that's
That's
unfortunate.
what happened to me.
Well, I think it happens to all of us. It's fine. And so yeah, it's easy to think, okay, I need to get healthy, and I need someone just gives me the magic bullet. I get rid of this, and this. Boom, I'm healthy, and I can still, if I get rid of seed oils, I'm healthy. But then I continue to take a bunch of fries and put mayo on them and dip them in mustard and then ketchup, and then down they go. But if it's seed oil free, if it's homemade, I'm good. And this is why we need wisdom and discernment to kind of help with areas like that, but also not just for physical health, which is great, but also for spiritual health as well. I mean, we need wisdom and discernment. Proverbs 6:7 talks about this adulterous woman, and he uses her as an example or an analogy, really, for sin in general, and how we can be unwise and we can just fall into this trap of her trap, really, of sinning without even thinking about it, because we just unwisely, foolishly walk into her trap. She seduces us because we don't have any wisdom, and she leads us into sin. And therefore, it says sin leads to death. Sin leads to sorrow. You didn't spend your time focusing on worthy goals, which is what you should have done. I think that's Proverbs chapter 6, or 5, excuse me. And so, therefore, you're going to get to the end of your life, and you're going to live in regret. And that's how she kind of traps you and makes you kind of live with regret. That's why it says, your sin will lead you to death. The path of sin will lead to death.
I think that level of wisdom is helpful because when you pick up your feet and you're following a path that's been followed before, like if you're going on a hiking trail or something and you're walking a well-known path, there are times along that path where you don't necessarily know if you're on the right path, or maybe the path forks or it branches away and there's not a sign that says, hey, you're still on the path, the lookout's over there or whatever. That you have someone to look for. Who's your guide?
Right.
And if you're out there just trying it out, maybe by stumbling on the path enough times, you've acquired in a wise old age the wisdom of being older. My mentor used to say there's very little substitute for simply being on the earth longer than someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so his point there is wisdom comes from experience. And if you fall in the pit 12 times, it's literally the definition of insanity. Why are you doing that?
Why are you doing that? Yeah.
Change. You have to make a change. And I think we all have those moments where you sort of come to and the light turns on. I didn't realize I was in darkness, or I didn't realize that I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I knew what I was doing. I'm going to make this change.
Yes.
And with spiritual matters, look to wisdom of the Bible. When you were saying Proverbs 4 specifically is in a narration style that's similar to, the Bronze Age. If you do a lot of Greek reading, where it's in a dialogue between a father and a son, or it's like the old Aristotle and Plato dialogues, where you actually have two people conversing, and in that conversation that you're reading,
I didn't think of it like that, but you're right. It is kind of like that.
Yeah, and it's
A Socratic dialogue.
exactly.
Yes.
And that's actually the more appropriate term. But it's sort of a father talking to a son, and that's what Proverbs 4 is about. It's an appeal of, I'm a wise person trying to teach my son. And what strikes me is it repeatedly saying, heed the words that I'm about to tell you. Don't let it stray from your heart. Hold fast to what I'm telling you. Don't let this go away. And it's one thing whenever wisdom is right there. You've got someone whom you love or someone who cares for you, you need to stop doing this. And you are, no, I'm going to hold fast over this thing over here. This is more alluring.
I think you're right. What's neat about Proverbs 4, though, assuming Solomon wrote Proverbs 4, we
Mhm.
don't know. We know Solomon didn't write all the Proverbs, but he did write a lot of them. And it says there in verse 4, hold on to my words with all your heart. And he's talking to his child, and he's talking about listen to your father's instructions, pay attention, you'll learn good judgment, giving sound learning. He says in verse 3, I, Solomon, was once a little boy in my father's house, and I was like an only child to my mother. And my father taught me, saying to me, hold on to my words with all your heart. I love that. So it is Solomon that wrote Proverbs 4, which is awesome because now you're kind of getting into the words of David for a second.
Mhm.
Right, this is Solomon telling his son, listen to my words because my father told me this.
Mhm.
And this is what King David told me. And he says, you need wisdom and you need to lay it on your heart. Write it on the tablets of your heart. I found that translation I was looking for, so now I'm
Oh,
happy.
great.
In verse 7, it says, wisdom is the most important thing, he says. It's the most important thing. If you go down, what's interesting is God isn't specifically mentioned. And often when we think of, what is the most important thing? Well, the most important thing is, and it kind of goes to what I have heard before, just say the default answer, Jesus, right?
Mm.
Jesus. And of course,
The
Jesus is
Christian
the
outlook.
most, yeah, Jesus is the most important thing, right? When it comes to your salvation and everything else. But when I'm living a good, trying to live a good and godly life, I need to rely on godly wisdom.
Mhm.
Right? If I want to follow God's ways, I need God's wisdom. And so God's wisdom is the most important thing. And it's going to be verse 11, I'm guarding you in wisdom. I'm leading you to do what is right. Wisdom is going to help us do what is right. But my favorite little bit is there at the end. Because it is the most important thing in your life. That's verse 13. Verse 22, it says, why? Well, because these words are the key to life. For those who find them, they bring health to a person's whole body. We talked about health, we talked about physical health, but above all else, verse 23, be very careful about what you think. Be very careful about what you think. Your thoughts control your life. Like, wisdom is the most important thing and is the key to life. And one of those keys, when it comes to wisdom, is that you control your thoughts. Like controlling your thoughts is a key to life above everything else. It's going to be healthy for you. It's going to be good for your physical body and for your spiritual soul. And so your thoughts control your life. Don't use your mouth to tell lies. Don't ever say things that are not true. Be honest. Keep your eyes focused on what is right. Sometimes we need to be honest with ourselves, right? And focus on what is right. Keep looking straight ahead on what is good. If I'm wise, I'm going to know the path that I'm traveling. I'm going to
Mhm.
look ahead so I don't fall into the snares or the traps of sin. Be careful what you do. Always do what is right. Don't get off the wrong path and stray away from evil. I love that.
So that's godly wisdom.
That's godly wisdom.
It's if you could boil it down to one word. The word that I had was discipline.
Discipline. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be other proverbs that say, a fool hates discipline, right? I think it's a famous proverb, in fact. A fool hates discipline.
Hates discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And that's so true. But we need to control our thoughts in a sense.
I know that as we said, that there's warnings of the Bible. The warning of eating seed oil every day, I guess, is eventually you're going to die a very uncomfortable death due to your health failing. There was some video that I saw recently that it was an older video, it seemed, where it talks about the importance of certain factors in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically talking about exercise, but the point he was making is if you hold your breath and you were able to hold your breath until you passed out
Yeah.
and then died, you would find that oxygen is important for your life. and it would just be seconds. Seconds of oxygen deprivation is detrimental to your health. And then if you would go a few days without water, water is essential for your life. And then food after a week or several weeks, it's like you would eventually find that food is vital for your life. And then eventually he was talking about you don't have to exercise every day, but you'll find out that the timeline of destruction, of irreparable damage, if you don't exercise, can be years or decades even. And you know that exercise and physical activity is essential for your life.
When I was in high school, not even high school, even before I became a teen, from like ages 12 to 18, I worked out really, really, really hard. And I worked out with my dad, and my dad was like, he could bench like 400 something pounds.
Wow.
And he was jacked throughout most of my childhood. And then as he got older, we would work out together, and he would teach me stuff. And so from those ages, as I was growing, I was working out and I was taking protein, but I was also growing at the same time. So it's not like I got like jacked. But that created a foundation where when I went into my 20s and I was done growing, I could eat and do whatever I wanted essentially and make really bad choices and still have that foundation to rely on. So if I needed to lose weight, I'd lose weight and I'd still have that there. And it set me up for success, but also for failures too. And I think we need to set ourselves up for failure sometimes. We can ease it. Like now, we're gonna fall on our face and we're gonna mess up. But if we can set ourselves up for failure, and how to move on, that's better. Again, the point here of this video and this podcast is to show you that the key of life is not just godly wisdom, but writing godly wisdom on your heart, learning, which is trial and error, to control your thoughts. It says there, if you control your thoughts, then you can control your actions. I think you had a passage out of Matthew 14 or something, right? That kind of goes along with that. I have a theory that kind of like, do you know, I could be wrong on this. Do you know how the cell is like formed? Right? You have like the outer wall, then you have the inner wall. Am I wrong on this? You guys know the science behind this? And then you have like the nucleus inside, right? And like it's all there to protect the nucleus of the cell. Doesn't that sound like the temple? Isn't that kind of cool, right? You can fact check me on that. Make sure I got I'm sure there's like a diagram or something in the picture, right? Well, it's kind of like our soul too, and how we accumulate things. It's kind of like a hypothesis. It's kind of like my hypothesis on how we accumulate things and how we think about things and how we grow. Like my mind is a wall to my heart, and I am bringing in, people's thoughts, and I'm bringing in certain experiences, and my eyes and my ears and my senses are the gates to that wall, that mind. And so I'm either allowing things to come in or I'm not allowing them to come in. And as they do come in, as you get to the center, that's where the heart is. Kind of like a city, very similar to a city too. You get the heart of the city, which is the center, and then you have the outer wall. It's like our soul.
Senses.
Yeah, like so you have the cell, you have a city, you have our soul, you have the temple which is separate. There's three parts: the holy place, and then the holy of holies is in the middle as you get more holy. And it's all kind of there connected in some similar way, and maybe a theological way. It's we need to control what we're bringing in to the city of our hearts. You gonna say something? Did you find something?
I am not a scientist.
Yeah,
I Googled it, and there's like the outer membrane, and then there's inner membranes that kind of surround the mitochondria and other things. I think. So
these are all coming back to my
seventh grade science
class. Anyway,
I think
if it's
a good
trash,
analogy.
throw it away. But in some ways, it's all very interesting to me, at least to think about my soul like a city or like the temple, and I need to be careful what I'm bringing in.
Yeah,
right.
That would be.
If it matches up with biology, that's pretty cool. You probably know better than I do.
No, I'm not a biologist. I know in another analogy that we were saying, that would be very similar to walking the path. And as Proverbs 4 says, is straying or to be appealed by the evil path. The path of evil
Right.
that would be turning to the right or to the left. And the instruction is to keep your eyes forward and keep moving in the direction of wisdom. Yeah. Whereas if, the phone is an amazing tool, it's also an amazing tool to be used against you. And to guard yourself against pornography or gambling or stock trading or text messages to former people that you shouldn't be associating with, or you're druggy, or whatever it is that's going to tempt you to stumble again. Guard yourself against those things.
Yeah.
The warning that Jesus provides us, or at least a teaching, here the instruction is Matthew 12, verse 33. Jesus is talking, either make the tree good and its fruit good, or make the tree bad and its fruit bad. For the tree is known by its fruit. We don't call a cherry tree an apple tree. And we know that a bush that will produce blackberries is not a peach tree, right? So we know these things inherently, that the tree producing fruit, and it's either going to be good or bad. You brood of vipers, how can you, being evil, speak what is good? For the mouth speaks out of that which fills the heart. That's what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So if your heart is tuned like a guitar, if you tune all the strings for good, you can play good chords. If it's out of tune, it's going to sound whacked out. Like if your heart is tuned for evil, how can you produce good fruit? How could you produce good things? The good man brings out of his good treasure what is good, and the evil man brings out of his evil treasure what is evil. But I tell you that every careless word that people speak, they shall give an accounting for it in the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned.
Yeah.
He says earlier in one of the great teachings, he talks about, I'm giving you wisdom for life. And, the encouragement there is to go to Matthew 5 through 7 and read this teaching. But at the end, he says, if you don't do what I say, it's like the foolish man who builds his house on a beach. He builds it on sand. And the storm comes, and the waves and the rain beats against the house, and the wind blows, and then the house falls down because it was only founded on sand. Now, you built the house. It took a long time. It took effort. You had a beautiful, picturesque spot. You got to see the ocean, man.
Yeah.
Have you seen the houses that are built on these beautiful capes, and then the hill starts eroding away, and then you've got like a $7 million house that's selling for $2.5 million, and nobody's going to touch it because in 2 years it's going to fall into the ocean.
Yeah.
And that's the wisdom of God. You either listen to it and you build your house on the rock. If you do the things that I say, you're the wise man who builds this house on a rock.
Mm-hmm.
And the storms of life come and the hurricane hits it and it's still standing.
Yeah.
Because it was proven, because it was built on this foundation of wisdom. And if you don't do it, you're in darkness. You're going to fall into those same pits over and over and over again. And at the end of your life, we don't want you to be that way.
Right. That's Matthew chapter 7. And he says in that passage, if you are not going to adhere to the words that I just told you in Matthew 5, 6, and 7, then it's like a foolish man who builds his house on sand. Mm-hmm. You're right. And we both are practicing the same thing. And it's easy to say, well, the foundation is Jesus. And yes, Jesus is our cornerstone. He is our foundation. But the words of Jesus, the teachings of Jesus, are the foundation which we build up our life on. Right?
You're going to build a house either way.
Right.
You're going to produce fruit either way.
Right. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. And he takes it even further, right? What you bring into your heart, what you bring into your city, if you will, city of your heart, what you bring into the temple or something, it's gonna come out, and it's not gonna be good either. You're gonna corrupt yourself, and so again, it kind of goes back to what we're point of this episode. You're looking for the key of life. Key of life is not a list of rules to follow. Key of life is not a get rich quick scheme or a get well soul quick type of idea. It's this idea of I need to over time lay upon my heart teachings of Jesus, the wisdom of God. That's the key of life. Anyway, I think that's a good place to end. What do you think?
Yeah, go for it.
Sounds good. Go so. If you want to know more about the Bible or you have any questions, our email is in the description below. You can DM us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're looking for a church family or you're in the Lubbock area, we invite you to come visit and hang out with us in Milwaukee. We love for you to find a church who practices the love of Christ.